Want to watch an actually good fantasy anime with great characters and an emotional story? Well, The Faraway Paladin is one of those underdog shows that pops up out of nowhere and surprises everyone by how good it is, so let's get started. Will, a young boy with faint memories of a past life, is born into a world where he is cared for by three undead beings. These entities, Gus the Spectre, Mary the Mummy, and Blood the Skeleton, raise him each and teach him their own knowledge and skills. Gus teaches him magic, Mary educates him about religion and essential life skills, and Blood trains him in combat and hunting. Despite their kindness, Will wonders why there are no other humans in the deserted city and senses that they're keeping secrets from him. Over the years, Will learns from these undead guardians, and Mary eventually tells him that they serve Stagnate, the god of the undead, and are considered traitors by the gods because of their past alliance with Stagnate. As Will grows older, Blood takes him hunting in the forest to get food, and although Will's uncomfortable with the idea of killing animals, he knows that they have to hunt in order to survive. When Will turns 8, Blood begins challenging him to duels and making him use his combat and magic skills. One day, Will hears Blood, Mary, and Gus's conversation and discovers their previous identities. Gus was a renowned mage, Blood was a legendary warrior, and Mary was a powerful priestess in their former lives before Blood promises to tell Will about it more when he grows up. Mary becomes a mother to Will. However, a misunderstanding during one of her prayers leads to Will accidentally intervening and getting burned by the holy fire. Later, Blood tells Will to consult him or Mary before doing anything, but the way he jumped into the fire for her was impressive, so the wounds he bears now are badges of his manhood. Gus tells him that that bread is a gift from the Earth Mother Mater, and Mary explains that she was on fire because they all formed a contact with the impure god, Stagnate, so just coming in contact with her presence causes them to burn. Will asks why she still prays to her, so she explains that it has been her daily routine before she met him. As Will grows older, Gus starts talking more to him about philosophy and legendary tales, telling him to think about morality and faith through the stories of different gods. Mary continues to teach him and joins him in long sessions of prayer while Blood summoned dead enemies, captured from the city, to work on William's combat skills. Eventually, Blood decides it's time to introduce Will to the city and tells him about the city's history as a once prosperous civilization populated by humans and dwarves. He challenges Will to survive alone and finding a way out. In the city, Will runs into a magical opponent and manages to stop their spells but loses his weapon in the process. He quickly takes a dwarven spear from the opponent and becomes curious about how Blood and the others are connected to the city. He comes across Gus in a tunnel, who suddenly summons a golem to fight him before barraging him with attacks, but despite pushing himself to the limit, Will decides that he can't harm his mentor, so Gus acknowledges his mistake in pushing him too hard. Will becomes suspicious of what Gus is hiding from him and decides to not ask him about it. When they return, he starts rigorously training with the dwarven spear, and as he learns how to navigate the city, he collects various weapons and armor from the undead skeletons. Later, Gus tells him that he's planned a coming-of-age ritual when Will turns 15, in which Blood will challenge him to a duel before asking him to lose the duel without any explanation. But Will, weary of secrets, rejects the idea and goes to discuss religion with Mary and Blood, who tell him that he's going to have to swear to a god who will become his guardian deity. Blood explains that when you swear an oath to God, you receive divine protection, but they also say that you'll be destined to suffer many hardships in exchange. As time passes, Will reaches his coming-of-age ceremony, so Blood decides to introduce him to alcohol, offering him wine he had brewed in secret. However, they're stopped when Mary catches them the next day and punishes them for being drunk. On the day of his duel with Blood, Will notices that Gus isn't present and realizes that his mentor is no longer holding back, making the duel more challenging than their usual training sessions. Despite Will's defeat, Blood acknowledges his combat skills and gets him with the Overeater, a powerful demonic sword that feeds on the life force of its enemies as a reward. He warns Will about relying too heavily on the weapon, warning him about its addictive properties over time before calling it a cursed blade. With Will now of age, Blood and Mary decide it's time to reveal their backstory and tell him about the story of the High King of the Eternals, who led a rebellion alongside demon kings, wreaking havoc across the continent, which led to attacks from monsters serving the gods of tyranny and undeath. The High King wanted to strengthen his forces and conquer the continent, while Gus, Mary, and Blood, renowned heroes, were gathered to infiltrate the city and defeat the High King. Despite their strength, they were unable to defeat him and were forced to seal him away. In exchange, the god of Undeath, Stagnate, made a deal with them to protect the seal in Undeath, and he would eliminate the remaining demons. For 2 centuries, the three honored their contract until demons tried to break the seal by sacrificing a baby, Will. In present day, as a ghost of Stagnate suddenly appears to take their souls, Gus appears in front of them and declares that he'll stop it. Gus tries using strong magic to push back Stagnate, but it doesn't work and it defeats the 3 undead and takes their souls. Telling Will that because they become less loyal to the High King over the years, they're easier to take. The next day, Will mourns Blood, Mary and Gus, who return to their bodies for a short while before being bound to Stagnate forever. Despite this, they urge Will to leave the city and go on his own adventure. Saying goodbye at the god's statue, Will promises to free them from Stagnate and starts fighting it outside the city before it summons countless skeletons to defeat him. Despite this, Will rejects Stagnate's offer to join him and uses Overeater to outsmart it before falling unconscious. When he wakes up, Will realizes that he's in a different world before meeting Grace Fiel, the goddess of flame and souls, once more. She asks him why he refused Stagnate's offer, to which he explains that true life isn't the same as endless existence. Impressed by his understanding, she decides to watch over him and become his guardian deity. Back in battle, Will uses Grace Fiel's blessings to defeat the skeletons, but after a hint from her, he realizes that it still threatens Blood, Gus, and Mary and rushes towards the temple. As he arrives at the temple, Will is shocked to find Stagnate already taking the souls of Blood, Gus, and Mary. However, Mater, the Earth Mother Goddess, intervenes to protect them, and it's revealed that she appeared because of Mary's devotion to her throughout 200 years of being an undead. Strengthened by Grace Fiel's blessings, Will takes the chance and takes advantage of Stagnate's temporary weakness to defeat it with the help of Overeater's power. Despite the victory, Will learns that Gus, Blood, and Mary's death is approached since they were denied to Stagnate, so their souls now belong to Grace Fiel, joining the eternal cycle of life and death. Though saddened by their approaching death, they urge him to accept life fully and encourage Will to become a true paladin, using his training to defend the innocent and offer hope to others in times of darkness. That night, Will sees Grace Fiel guiding their souls away and meets Gus, granted another decade by her to watch over the High King's seal. He gives Will the treasures he has saved up over his long life, and informs him that in 10 years, it will be his duty to safeguard the seal. Before they separate, Gus gives him the surname Meriblood, but Will decides to add the middle name G in honor of him. In a flashback, it is revealed that in their human lives, Blood and Mary were not only heroes in the battle against the High King, but also secret lovers who wanted to get married to each other and live a peaceful life after defeating the High King and retiring. Before their final battle with the High King, they decide to train their child to be a strong protector and to name him William. As Will goes outside the city limits, he doesn't see any humans and only runs into demons that he easily defeats. Thinking of the absence of humanity after 2 centuries, he comes across the ruins of a large city, and before departing, he offers a prayer to Grace Fiel for the city's dead citizens. Despite being able to live off of purified water and bread, Will tries looking for people and runs into Menel, an elven hunter going after a boar. Will speaks ancient Elvish to calm him, and makes a deal to share the boar once they kill it, before he guesses that Will is a treasure hunter from the south. Guided by Menel's directions to a nearby village, Will decides to journey there. However, a divine vision from Grace Fiel warns him of a disaster approaching it, so he rushes to the village and arrives in time to defeat the raiders attacking it, but he realizes that Menel was one of the raiders. He starts battling him and manages to win despite Menel's fey magic. Disarming Menel and the raiders, Will gets confused as the villagers discuss what they should do with the raiders, and offers to pay the village for the damage it was caused by the raiders rather than having them killed. He tells them to release Menel to help him defeat the demons responsible for the attacks, so the villagers reluctantly agree to his deal and offer refuge to the raiders' victims. Though cautious of Will's motives, Menel reluctantly agrees to help him, and as they leave for the second village, Menel warns him that their alliance is temporary and they'll go their separate ways once they're done. Upon reaching the ruins of the nearby village, Will and Menel see demons performing a strange ritual in the ruined church, so Will confidently decides to fight the demons directly, helped by Menel, and they swiftly disrupt the ritual before defeating the demons. Among the few survivors they find, Will consoles one as they pass away, seeing which Menel apologizes for doubting him and his beliefs. They come across an old ghost named Maple who refuses to move on and scolds Menel upon discovering his role in the raid on the neighboring village. leaving Menel feeling abandoned by the gods. Recognizing Menel's struggles as a half-elf cursed, Will understands the bond between Menel and Maple before she urges Menel to stay strong and asks Will to watch over him. Revealing the demon's origin in a mountain fortress, Maple orders them to eliminate the threat before going to the afterlife, her mission accomplished. As the surviving villagers gather to bury dead and thank Will for their return, he slowly approaches Menel, who shares his life story and says that since he grew up as an orphan in the village, his mixed race made him stand out and he was betrayed after joining a group of adventurers, so he healed himself with Maple until the demons attacked. Wanting to pay for what he did and find a new purpose, Menel asks for blessings from Will's deity, Gracefield, deciding to make up for his past and to live an honest life. Later, as they return to the village, Will remarks that he's happy to have his first best friend. The next day, the villagers decide they need to head to White Cells to get supplies for rebuilding. But when Will asks what that is, Menel questions who he really is and explains that White Cells is a major city on the northern continent, where people escaped when the High King took over the south. He also adds that worship of Gracefield dropped after the High King's invasion scattered her followers. As they're journeying through the forest, they see a huge ape attacking two travelers, but Will's intimidating presence scares it away, and the travelers, Robina and Antonio, tell them that they're also headed to White Cells. So they team up since Antonio offers to use his negotiation skills to get good deals for the villagers. While traveling together, Robina entertains the villagers with her performances, and Antonio suggests that Will use his healing powers to help the injured, improving their group's reputation. One night, Robina sings a song about Will's undead guardians, the heroes who defeated the High King long ago, but Will notices some mistakes in the song, especially about the wandering mage Gus. The song touches him deeply, reminding him of his guardians and their sacrifices, and the next day, Antonio praises Will for his kindness and fighting skills, hoping they can continue traveling together before they heading toward White Cells, which Robina excitedly shows him. Upon entering White Cells, Will is surprised by the activity of the merchant city, so the others explain that since the High King's invasion, White Cells has become very popular, attracting trade from isolated lands. They look around the city's streetlights and bathhouses in awe, and after having a bath and eating seafood, Will decides to go to the city's temples. Separating with the others, Will enters the Grand Temple to pay his respects to Gracefield. However, due to the shortage of priests devoted to the Light Goddess, the temple authorities order Will to verify himself, and Bishop Bart, known for his reputation and political connections, interrogates Will before allowing him to enter. Later, he meets up with the others before a wyvern suddenly attacks the city, and because of the senior priests not being present, Will and Menel devise a plan to defeat it. Menel uses his fey magic to distract the wyvern, while Will uses his blessings to protect the temple before they take advantage of it being distracted and swiftly take it down. They're praised for being heroes and help in restoring the city before Will receives an invitation from Crown Prince Ethelbald, the city's ruler. As they sit down, he thanks Will for his bravery and asks about his background and friends before deciding to reward him. So Will asks him to help the demon villages in the south that are being attacked by demons, but Ethelbald says their military is already spread too thin, so Will asks him for permission to hire mercenaries and adventurers with his own money to defeat the demons, but Ethelbald remarks that he must also consider the option of killing him. Will tries to convince Ethelbald and says he only wants the safety of the villagers, so he reluctantly agrees to give him permission to form an army. However, their conversation is interrupted by the arrival of Bishop Bart, who wants to take advantage of Will's success for the church's gain, but Ethelbald assigns Bart to oversee Will's mission, which he reluctantly agrees to. As they're preparing, Will meets Anna, Bart's adopted daughter, and a priestess who serves as one of his lieutenants before Bart decides to educate Will in the modern ways of priesthood. Will watches Bart's spirituality and strict loyalty to tradition, noting that he's very reluctant in using blessings for personal gain, which has earned him a poor reputation. Bart tells him that priests should use blessings only to fulfill the god's will, not for personal glory. To maintain the temple's favor among the people, Bart allows his subordinates to use blessings to help the people and warns Will that if he wants to abandon his mission, Bart holds the political power to stop Ethelbald's orders. However, Will refuses to back down, though Bart doesn't agree with his determination. He agrees to send priests to help in defending the southern villages. Later, Will and Menel visit bars in the city to hire adventurers for their mission, but a lot of them refuse to join because of the minimal pay, and it's only when an adventurer, Restov, offers to help that the others agree as well. Upon hearing of Restov being involved, Robina becomes interested in interviewing him since he's popular for his nature and reputation for choosing dangerous missions. Before heading out for the villages, Ethelbald formally knights Will as a paladin. The mission to help the southern villages commences with the adventurers and bishops collaborating to clear the forests of demons and provide essential supplies to the villagers. Antonio swiftly coordinates the distribution of help and thinks of establishing a trading company to further help them before using the resources borrowed from the bishop. They tend to the injured and the villagers, while Rastov leads groups of adventurers to defeat demon clusters along the roads. As time progresses, the villages grow more secure, and the roads become safer for travel. However, during the mission, Rastov alerts the group that a party of scouts hasn't returned from the woods yet, so Will and the party leave on an investigation and discover the remains of the scouts, along with tracks of strong demon. Paying their respects to the dead, the party heads deeper into the valley, only to get ambushed by a demon. Despite being outnumbered, Will and Menel use their magic to help the adventurers, but a gigantic chimera suddenly appears and severely injures Menel. Seeing this, Will furiously uses his demon blade to kill it. After the battle, Will experiences the effects of his actions, feeling the toll of using the Overeater. Despite his own condition, he tends to Menel's wounds before collapsing. Later, when he wakes up, Will learns from Rastov that the chimera has retreated, and although Menel is stable, he hasn't woken up yet. Thinking of the battle, Will acknowledges that his recklessness was the reason behind getting overwhelmed and understands the difference in strength between himself and others, realizing that his training has made him stronger than the others. He later meets Gracefield in his sleep and tells her that he'll solve everything on his own and will save everything within his reach. Will despairingly heads into the forest alone, convinced of his ability to fight the demons alone, but he runs into Menel, who has recovered from his injuries. Despite Menel's efforts to stop him, Will easily overpowers him. Menel restrains Will with his magic and tells him off for his misguided actions before assuring him that he will grow stronger over time and telling him to wait for his friends to grow. Will reluctantly agrees, and they return to camp together where the party was worried about him going off alone. Will gathers everyone to devise a plan to defeat the chimera, and with the help of the bishops, he takes the party back to the valley and they start fighting the demons. Later, Will and Menel go forward and discover an abandoned monastery where the chimera's waiting for them. Surprised by it knowing the seal of the High King, Will realizes the demon's plan to block humanity's access to the seal, stopping the High King from being restored. He starts battling it and manages to defeat it with the help of Menel before they meet Rastov in the monastery, who has already dealt with the other demons. Upon returning to camp, Robina composes a song about their adventures, calling Will the faraway paladin before Menel tells Will that the villagers have erected shrines to Gracefield, Will's goddess, which means hat worshipping is getting revived in the southern continent. He remarks that Will may become the lord of the southern villages, aligning with the church and the crown prince's plans. Overwhelmed by the responsibility, Will thinks of transforming the undead city of his childhood into a regular city with the laughter of children resounding and the sound of people working to make a living on the hill with blood and Mary's graves, remarking that it seemed like a wonderful thing to him, and with that the season comes to an end. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.